Have you ever noticed how rare peace feels? We chase it in silence, in love, in money, in success. But the more we chase it, the more it slips away. Maybe peace was never meant to be hunted. Maybe it's something that's built quietly, internally, moment by moment. Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And perhaps that's the essence of modern suffering. Not pain itself, but the stories we tell about it. Today, we'll dive into the ancient philosophy that dared to say, peace is not found when life gets easier. It's found when you become stronger. This is the art of living in peace, Stoic peace. Have you ever noticed how much of your day is wasted trying to control things that simply don't depend on you? The traffic, the weather, the way people think of you, the job interview, the algorithm that decides if your post dies in silence or goes viral. Every day, you burn energy on things that exist completely outside your command, and you call that living. Epictetus once said something so brutally simple that it's almost offensive. There are things that depend on us and things that don't. That's it. Two categories. But in practice, we spend our lives confusing the two, and that confusion is the root of most human misery. You say you want peace, but you demand control. You want freedom, but you negotiate it away every time you react to something you can't change. Think about this. You wake up late, spill your coffee, miss the bus, open your inbox, and see a passive-aggressive message from your boss. In that moment, philosophy doesn't sound useful. It sounds like an insult. You don't want wisdom, you want revenge. You want the world to obey your schedule. And when it doesn't, your body punishes you as if you've been personally betrayed. Here's the raw truth. You control far less than you wish you did. And most of the drama in your life comes from fighting that fact. You've written a script in your mind. If things go this way, I'll be happy. If not, life is unfair. You think reality should adapt to your expectations, that the universe owes you synchronization. Let's test that illusion. Imagine you're stuck in traffic. Someone cuts you off. What do? You honk. You curse. You lecture the air like a philosopher who lost his cool. You feel righteous, as if your anger fixes the world. But the truth? It changes nothing. The other driver doesn't hear your moral sermon. You arrive angrier, smaller, drained, while they keep driving, listening to the same playlist as before. You didn't change the world. You just let the world change you. And we do this constantly because we confuse control with validation. We think that by expressing outrage, we reclaim power. But that's not power. It's addiction to importance. Complaining is emotional junk food. It gives you the illusion of action without the nourishment of progress. Now imagine something bigger. You lose your job. Two people face the same situation. One panics, blames the world, sinks into self-pity. The other breathes, adapts, applies for 50 new positions, learns a new skill, and uses the time to rebuild. Which one will rise again? It's not luck. It's mental discipline. It's the art of separating what you can do from what you wish you could. That's the secret the Stoics mastered. The goal isn't control, it's autonomy. You can't control the world, but you can master the way you respond to it. You can decide what thoughts you feed, what stories you tell yourself, what energy you invest. As Epictetus wrote, what upsets people is not things themselves, but their judgments about those things. Picture a ship in a storm. Some sailors curse the waves. Others fix the sails. The storm doesn't stop for anyone, but only one of them learns how to navigate. The Stoic doesn't deny the chaos. He learns to steer within it. The wise don't need calm seas. They need strong hands. Here's the paradox. When you stop fighting for control, you actually gain it. Not over the world, but over yourself. Every minute spent trying to manipulate what's external is a minute stolen from what's internal. The more you obsess over others, the less time you have to strengthen your own foundation. This illusion of control fuels modern anxiety, the silent epidemic of our time. You worry about the future like it's a prophecy. What if I fail? What if they leave me? What if I'm not enough? But philosophy asks a simple question. Does this depend on you? If not, why are you surrendering your peace to it? And this isn't cold detachment, it's strategic serenity. It's about conserving emotional energy for what actually matters. If something depends on you, act. If it doesn't, release it. Not with indifference, but with dignity. Let's talk about relationships. How many arguments come from expecting someone to notice what you feel without saying it? You think silence is communication, disappointment is proof of love, and guilt is a strategy. But no one can read your mind. Trying to control how others think or behave is emotional slavery. Control your communication. Control your boundaries. Control your reactions. That's real power. Everything else is theater. Some people will say, but if I don't fight for what I want, how will things change? The Stoic answer isn't passivity, it's precision. You don't stop fighting. You stop fighting everything. You fight intelligently. You plan, you act, you adjust. But you don't waste life demanding that the ocean stop moving. Another key Stoic skill, the separation between events and judgments. When something hits you, failure, rejection, loss, pause and ask, what am I adding to this story? The pain often isn't in the event itself, but in the meaning you attach to it. Reframing is power. You can't rewrite the event, but you can rewrite your interpretation. Change the story, and the emotion follows. Imagine what that does to your sanity. Instead of reacting to everything, you start responding with perspective. You're not cold, you're composed. You can feel everything without being destroyed by anything. And here's the final layer. The illusion of control breeds performative victimhood. In today's world, outrage gets attention. Victimhood trends. We've learned that suffering loudly earns validation. But attention isn't healing. Every time you use pain to prove your worth, you reinforce the belief that you're powerless without it. Freedom begins when you stop turning your wounds into identity. Real strength is quiet. It doesn't need to announce itself. The Stoic doesn't post his scars. He polishes his character. So here's the practice. Ask yourself, does this depend on me? If yes, act. If no, release. Shift your energy from complaints to construction. Separate events from interpretations. Anticipate loss, not as pessimism, but as preparation. Disconnect your worth from results. You're not your outcomes. You are your effort. When you accept that you don't control the world, you stop fighting with it and start dancing with it. The storm remains, but you learn to move differently. That's freedom. That's peace. And maybe that's what Epictetus meant when he said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Now, take a deep breath. Think of one thing that recently drained your peace because you try to control it. See if you can redirect that energy towards something that's actually within your power. Today, not tomorrow. That's where the real work begins. You want to grow, but not if it hurts. You want to evolve, but not if it costs your comfort. You say you want freedom, yet you build your own cage out of soft pillows, glowing screens, and endless distractions. We call it comfort. But comfort, when abused, is not peace, it's paralysis. We live in an era where pain is treated like a malfunction. If you're sad, you're told to scroll. If you're bored, you're told to swipe. If you're lonely, there's always a screen that pretends to listen. The world has become a pharmacy for emotions, selling numbness disguised as happiness. But here's the truth no one wants to hear. Growth and comfort cannot coexist. You cannot become who you're meant to be while staying who you are. The very act of transformation requires friction, the discomfort of leaving the familiar, of losing what once felt safe. That's why most people never change. Not because they can't, but because it hurts too much to shed their old skin. We love the idea of discipline, but we hate the reality of it. We romanticize warriors, thinkers, philosophers, but what we really admire is their result, not their suffering. We forget that Marcus Aurelius didn't write Meditations from a throne of gold, but from the front lines of war, surrounded by chaos, illness, and betrayal. He wrote to stay sane, not to sound wise. His peace was forged, not found. Comfort whispers, stay here. You've done enough. Don't risk it. And we obey. We postpone our potential, one small excuse at a time. I'll start next week. I'll try when I'm ready. I just need motivation. But readiness never comes, because it's not a feeling, it's a decision. You act, and then you become ready. Never the other way around. Let me tell you something uncomfortable. Your comfort zone is not a safe place. It's a slow death. It feels like peace, but it's actually decay in disguise. Every day spent avoiding discomfort is a day spent avoiding your destiny. You think you're resting, but you're rusting. Think about the gym. The pain you feel when training isn't punishment. It's adaptation. The muscle doesn't grow because it's comfortable. It grows because it's challenged. It breaks, rebuilds, and becomes stronger. Your mind is the same. Every mental rep happens when you push through resistance, not when you avoid it. But modern society has trained us to escape even the smallest inconvenience. We complain when the Wi-Fi lags for 5 seconds. We rage when someone disagrees online. We panic at silence, as if being alone with our thoughts is torture. We've forgotten the art of endurance. We want instant comfort, but eternal results. We want wisdom without solitude, strength without struggle, enlightenment without effort. And then we wonder why we feel empty, why anxiety grows even in abundance, why depression spreads in a world full of convenience. It's because humans were not built to live without friction. We are wired to overcome, not to escape. Meaning is found not in comfort, but in conflict overcome with grace. The Stoics understood this deeply. They practiced voluntary discomfort, sleeping on hard floors, walking barefoot, eating plain food, not because they enjoyed suffering, but because they wanted freedom from dependency. When you can face discomfort by choice, the world loses its power to intimidate you. When you master your reaction to hardship, life becomes lighter, not because it's easier, but because you become stronger. Epictetus, who was once a slave, said, "No man is free unless he can command himself." He knew what we've forgotten, that luxury doesn't equal liberty. Most people today are prisoners of comfort. Their cage is invisible, made of habits, routines, and dopamine loops that keep them entertained, distracted, and spiritually asleep. Here's the paradox. The more comfort you chase, the weaker you become. The weaker you become, the more comfort you need. It's a cycle of decay disguised as self-care. Real self-care is not indulgence, it's discipline. It's doing what your future self will thank you for, not what your present self craves. Every meaningful life demands sacrifice. You want peace of mind? Sacrifice your ego. You want success? Sacrifice your laziness. You want love that lasts? Sacrifice your selfishness. You want growth? Sacrifice your comfort. Every version of yourself that's stronger, wiser, and freer exists on the other side of the sacrifice you haven't made yet. Ask yourself, when was the last time you did something uncomfortable on purpose? When was the last time you sat in silence? No music, no phone, just you and your thoughts. When was the last time you allowed boredom to become creativity instead of distraction? If your answer is, I don't remember, then you've been numbing, not living. The Stoics would tell you, seek discomfort before it seeks you. Because life will test you, without warning, without mercy. And when it does, comfort won't protect you. Only discipline will. Only inner strength will. The warrior who trains in peace bleeds less in war. So, use calm days to sharpen your soul. Wake up early when it's cold and quiet, and do something that your lazy self would never choose. Not because it feels good, but because it builds the person you'll need when life turns against you. Comfort feels like love, but it's seduction. It whispers you into mediocrity, saying, you're fine as you are. But you're not fine. You're unfinished. And the fire inside you knows it. That's why you feel restless even when everything seems okay. Because your potential is starving while your comfort is full. Growth is rebellion against your own comfort. It's saying, I refuse to stay soft in a hard world. It's choosing struggle over stagnation, mastery over mediocrity, reality over pleasure. And that's not cruelty, it's compassion for your higher self. One day, you'll look back and realize that the moments that built you were never the ones that felt safe. They were the ones that demanded more than you thought you had. Pain, loss, rejection, solitude. They were not curses, they were invitations. Invitations to evolve. So, don't fear discomfort. Fear the numbness that follows too much comfort. Fear the life that asks nothing of you. Because if nothing challenges you, nothing changes you. You were not born to be comfortable. You were born to become capable. And the path to that is paved with discomfort, chosen, embraced, transcended. So the next time you hesitate before doing something difficult, whisper this to yourself. Comfort is the enemy. Growth is the goal. Then move, act, train, fail, rise, repeat. Because only those who master discomfort master life. What if true freedom isn't about control, but about surrender? You've been told all your life that freedom means power. Power over your choices, your career, your relationships, your future. But the ancient Stoics, the Buddhists, and even modern psychologists would tell you a shocking truth. The more you try to control life, the more it controls you. Think about it. Every time you obsess over how people see you, you give them control. Every time you try to force an outcome, you become enslaved to the result. Every time you resist what is, you lose peace in what could be. Epictetus, born a slave, yet one of the freest men in history, said something most people will never understand. It's not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. In other words, it's not life that hurts you. It's your resistance to life. When a storm comes, most people fight it. They curse the rain, complain about the cold, try to escape the discomfort. But a wise person, a stoic, a monk, a philosopher, doesn't fight the storm. They walk through it. They accept that the storm is part of the path. Because peace doesn't come from controlling the weather, it comes from learning how to walk in the rain. Acceptance is not weakness. It's the ultimate act of strength. To accept what you cannot change is not to surrender your power. It's to reclaim it. Because only when you stop trying to control everything do you realize what you were meant to control all along. Yourself. Marcus Aurelius, writing in his journal while the empire crumbled around him, said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He wasn't being poetic. He was describing the foundation of emotional freedom. The world today sells the opposite idea. Control everything, plan everything, manifest everything. But have you noticed how that constant chase for control leads to anxiety, burnout, and a quiet sense of failure? You can't dominate chaos. You can only learn to dance with it. And that's what acceptance really is. The art of dancing with chaos without losing your rhythm. Imagine you're holding sand in your hand. If you grip it too tightly, it slips through your fingers. But if you hold it gently, it stays. Life works the same way. The tighter you hold on to your expectations, your desires, your fears, the faster they fade. But when you loosen your grip, when you let go, you start to see that life isn't something you must control, it's something you can experience. That's why the Stoics practice something called amor fati, the love of fate. Not just accepting what happens, but loving it. Loving the pain, the chaos, the heartbreak, the loss, because each moment, even the ugly ones, are part of your transformation. Friedrich Nietzsche, one of the harshest voices in philosophy, took that same Stoic idea and sharpened it. My formula for greatness in a human being, he said, is amor fati, to not wish anything to be different, not forward, not backward, not for all eternity. He's saying, don't just live with what happens, embrace it as if you chose it. When you do this, something incredible happens. Fear begins to lose its grip. Desire quiets down. Anger turns into understanding. And suddenly, you're free. Because true freedom isn't doing whatever you want. It's not needing to. This is the paradox of acceptance. It's only when you stop running from what is that you can finally move toward what could be. There's a story from Zen philosophy that captures this perfectly. A monk was being chased by a tiger. He ran until he reached the edge of a cliff. With nowhere else to go, he climbed down and held onto a single vine. Above him, the tiger. Below him, another one waiting. And beside him, a strawberry growing from the rock. The monk looked at the strawberry, smiled, and ate it. He knew death was inevitable. Fear was useless. So he did the only thing left. He lived. That's the kind of freedom we're talking about here. The freedom to experience life fully. even when it's falling apart. The power of letting go isn't about giving up. It's about giving in to reality. It's realizing that life doesn't need your control. It needs your participation. So next time you feel like you're drowning in chaos, don't fight the current. Float. Trust that the river knows where it's going. That's not passivity. That's wisdom. Because sometimes letting go isn't losing control. It's finding peace in the only thing you ever truly controlled, your response. You might be wondering, okay, acceptance sounds beautiful, but how do I live in a world that's constantly testing me? Because let's be honest, it's easy to talk about peace when you're alone, staring at the ocean, or reading Marcus Aurelius in a quiet room. But how do you stay calm when you're late for work, stuck in traffic, your phone is buzzing, and you're overwhelmed by 1,000 things you can't control? How do you accept life when people disappoint you, when plans collapse, or when everything you wanted just doesn't happen? This is where philosophy becomes more than words. It becomes a practice. The Stoics weren't dreamers sitting under trees. They were warriors, emperors, and slaves, people who faced chaos daily. And yet, they developed tools to train their minds, just as soldiers train their bodies. Tools that we can still use, right now, in our modern world of noise, comparison, and constant pressure. Let's start with the first one. 1. The dichotomy of control. Epictetus divided life into two categories: what depends on us and what doesn't. It sounds simple, but it's revolutionary. You can't control your body aging. You can't control what people think of you. You can't control the weather, the economy, or the next twist of fate. But you can control one thing: your response. Every time something goes wrong, ask yourself, is this within my control? If yes, act. If no, accept. This tiny mental filter can save you from 90% of unnecessary suffering. It transforms chaos into clarity. Because suddenly, instead of trying to fight the entire world, you realize the only battlefield that matters is your own mind. That's where freedom begins, not outside, but within. 2. Negative visualization, premeditatio malorum. The second practice is brutal, but life-changing. The Stoics called it premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Every morning, imagine the worst. Yes, you heard that right. Imagine losing your job, your phone breaking, the bus running late, a friend betraying you. Imagine everything going wrong. And then, imagine yourself remaining calm. This isn't pessimism, it's preparation. When the worst happens, you'll already be emotionally trained. When life punches you, you won't fall, because you've already been hit in your mind. Marcus Aurelius practiced this daily. He would wake up and remind himself, today, I will meet people who are ungrateful, arrogant, deceitful, envious, and rude. He wasn't being cynical. He was immunizing himself against disappointment. By expecting imperfection, you protect your peace. 3. Mindful observation. The next tool is mindfulness, not in a trendy sense, but as the Stoics and Buddhists understood it, awareness without judgment. You don't need incense, silence, or a meditation app. You just need attention. Right now, notice your breathing. Notice the tension in your shoulders. Notice the thoughts trying to pull you somewhere else. Now let them pass. You don't have to fix them, control them, or fight them. Just observe, because awareness itself is the act of liberation. When you become the watcher of your mind, you stop being its prisoner. As the Stoics said, you can't control what happens, but you can choose how you see it. That's mindfulness, reframing perception. 4. The art of voluntary discomfort. Modern life is designed to make you soft. Everything is easy. Food, entertainment, warmth, convenience. Everything is just a click away. But comfort weakens the soul. It dulls your edge. And the Stoics knew that too much ease leads to moral decay. That's why they practiced voluntary discomfort. They would fast, walk barefoot in the cold, sleep on hard ground. Not to suffer, but to remember how little they needed to be strong. You can do the same. Take cold showers, delay gratification, face small fears intentionally. These micro-challenges sharpen your mind against the chaos of life. Because if you can endure little discomforts by choice, you'll endure great ones by nature. Discomfort is your teacher. It builds resilience. and resilience is the foundation of peace. 5. The reflection of the day. At night, when everything slows down, the Stoics would review their actions. Epictetus said, "Let not sleep fall upon your eyes before you have examined your day." Ask yourself, what did I do well today? Where did I fail to act with wisdom? Did I control my emotions, or did they control me? Don't judge, just observe. Each reflection is a mirror polishing the soul. The goal isn't perfection, but progress. Now, combine these 5 practices: control, visualization, mindfulness, discomfort, and reflection, and you begin to see something extraordinary. Acceptance isn't passive. It's an active discipline, a mental strength. You become like a tree in the storm, bending but never breaking. The world will still test you. People will still disappoint you. Things will still go wrong. But you will no longer crumble when they do. That's the kind of peace that can't be taken away. Because the truth is, life will never stop being chaotic. But the mind trained in acceptance no longer needs life to behave. And maybe that's what Epictetus meant all along when he said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." There's a truth we all try to run from, but it always catches up to us. No matter how strong, wise, or successful you become, suffering will find you. Pain isn't a mistake in the design of life, it is the design. The Stoics knew this. Nietzsche knew this. Even modern psychology now admits it. Human growth is born from struggle. But in today's world, we've turned pain into an enemy. We label every form of discomfort as a problem to fix, a signal that something's gone wrong. We numb it with distractions, bury it under pleasure, and hope it goes away. Yet, pain isn't something to escape. It's something to listen to, because buried inside every pain is a message, a lesson about who you are, what you value, and what you still need to face. 1. The Stoic view. Pain as a teacher. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is endurable, then endure it. Stop complaining." Simple, brutal, true. For the Stoics, pain wasn't evil. It was a test, a chance to practice virtue, to prove your strength, to grow closer to wisdom. When you feel pain, you're standing in front of a mirror that shows your limits. If you avoid it, your limits shrink. If you face it, your limits expand. Every challenge, heartbreak, failure, loss is an invitation. The question is, will you answer it or will you run? Seneca once said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." Pain shapes you the same way resistance shapes muscle. Without it, you remain weak, emotionally, spiritually, morally. So next time you suffer, don't ask, "Why me?" Ask instead, "What is this pain trying to make of me?" 2. Nietzsche, amor fati, the love of fate. While the Stoics taught us to endure pain, Nietzsche dared us to love it. He called it amor fati, the love of fate. He wrote, "My formula for greatness in a human being is amor fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity." Think about that. To not just accept your suffering, but to want it, to embrace it, to celebrate it as a vital part of your becoming. Nietzsche believed that those who try to erase pain also erase meaning, because the moments that break you are the same ones that forge your depth. Every scar on your soul is proof that you lived, that you were brave enough to feel. And feeling deeply, even when it hurts, is what makes life real. Without pain, there is no gratitude. Without chaos, there is no growth. Without death, there is no appreciation for life. That's the paradox. Pain hurts because it matters. 3. Viktor Frankl, the last freedom. Now imagine this. You've lost everything. Your family, your freedom, your future. You're trapped in a concentration camp, starving, cold, and surrounded by death. That was Viktor Frankl's reality. And yet, in the darkest human experience imaginable, he found light. He realized that even when everything is taken from you, one thing remains: the freedom to choose your attitude. He wrote, "Everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances." That's the ultimate Stoic truth, lived, not spoken. You might not control pain, but you control what it means. And in that meaning, you find power. Suffering, then, is not just unavoidable, it's sacred, because it gives you the chance to exercise your inner freedom, to discover who you really are when everything else is gone. 4. Pain as transformation. Pain is the forge of the soul. It burns away illusions. It exposes weakness. And if you face it with courage, it transforms you. Think of a sword. To make it strong, the metal must first be melted, beaten, and folded under fire. Human beings are no different. Life will heat you, break you, and fold you again and again. But every time you rise from that fire, you become something rarer, unbreakable, yet still human. They're the moment after deep pain when something shifts inside you. You stop trying to go back to who you were. You realize that person no longer exists. And that's okay, because pain has killed the weaker version of you, so a wiser one can be born. 5. The modern problem, numbing the fire. The tragedy of our age is not that we suffer too much, but that we suffer for nothing. We've built a culture addicted to comfort, a world that tells you any form of pain is a flaw. So, instead of learning from pain, we drown it in screens, substances, relationships, or constant noise. But the more you avoid pain, the smaller your capacity for life becomes. You don't just numb the pain, you numb your joy, your passion, your depth. Pain isn't here to destroy you. It's here to wake you, to remind you that you're alive, that you still care, that you still have something worth fighting for. The question is, will you face it or keep running? 6. The reframe. Let's reframe pain. Stop seeing it as a punishment. See it as a passage. Every great transformation begins in suffering. The seed breaks to become a tree. The butterfly struggles to escape the cocoon. The soul burns to become wise. So when you're hurting, don't say, I'm broken. Say, I'm becoming. Because that's what you are becoming. Something stronger, something deeper, something real. And maybe that's what Nietzsche meant when he said, one must still have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star. Pain isn't the opposite of peace. It's the price of it. And the moment you stop resisting it, the moment you embrace it as part of the dance, that's the moment you truly begin to live. Peace isn't found in isolation or silence. It's found in self-command, the ability to remain calm when the world screams chaos. Epictetus once said, no man is free who is not master of himself. Freedom, in the Stoic sense, doesn't mean doing whatever you want. It means not being enslaved by your emotions, your cravings, or the opinions of others. Imagine yourself standing in a storm, the wind howling, the rain falling hard. Most people run, hide, or curse the weather. But the Stoic stands still. He understands he cannot stop the storm, but he can decide who he will be within it. That is peace, not the absence of noise, but the mastery of self amid it. And when you reach this point, when you no longer react but respond, when your calm becomes unshakable, even in chaos, then you've achieved something the world cannot take away. True inner strength. Because in a world built on noise, confusion, and constant motion, the person who can remain still wins. If this message spoke to you, don't let it fade when the video ends. Reflect on it. Live it. And if you seek more moments like this, subscribe so you don't lose your way in the storm again.